in his world. Meaning, whatever you have in your possession right now, it's not necessarily yours. Yes, legally it's yours. Nobody can take it. If someone will take it from you, it's stealing. But what happens if the king wants to confiscate it? He'll send his soldiers to you or the police and they grab it, or the FBI. In 1 second, they can freeze all your accounts. It happens to thousands of people. If the government wants to freeze your assets and take it away from you, or the court, in 1 second, they can take everything you have. That's it. There's nothing you can do. Even a corrupted cop or corrupted FBI investigator, if his eyes is on your property or something that you have or your bank account, he can make up a story and say, be a witness, false witness that you did such and such, can put drugs in your stuff, and from that moment on you get arrested and he frees your account, he can steal all your money if he's corrupted. It happens to one Persian guy from Great Neck. Corrupted cops robbed his jewelry store. 6 cops came in and cleaned all the diamonds and jewelry and put him in jail, and he was in jail in the same room with whom? 6 months he was arrested in the same room. Who was his roommate? The guy told me the story himself. He says, one thing, they made a false accusation against me, money laundering, this, that, stolen jewelry, all baloney. They made it up. Later they caught those cops, corrupted cops. It was all over the news. But they never returned him the jewelry. Millions of dollars of diamonds and gold. They took it. They did not make them return the stolen goods. He went to jail. Lawyers cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars. He had to sell his house in Great Neck, get a lawyer, go to court, fight them. In the meantime, he's in jail. 6 months he was in a jail with the worst monster on earth in the whole world. Who was it? The head of the Italian mafia, the mass murderer, gangster, no heart human being. Who? John Gotti. He told me from all the tragedy that I had to go through, that was the biggest nightmare. Being 6 months with this person, shaking from morning to night. If he's going to choke me in the middle of my sleep, I cannot snore, I cannot move, I cannot climb on a bed when he's there. He's basically made me a slave. And if you're going to answer him, the next thing, your wife and children will be dead. You're not in a liberty to even talk. Yes, sir, yes, sir. 6 months with a Satan in your room. Imagine how hell is going to be for 500 years. If in your life you can see something like this, someone gets such a punishment, just imagine the punishments in the next world, as the Zohar and the Gemara describe them. If you see in your own eyes what can happen to a person, and that person was not an evil person, it wasn't a Rasha, Shomer Shabbat, religious, not maybe enough, but religious. And he got such a punishment. In the end, they found out it was all false accusation. They released him, but he lost everything he had. How do I know the story? I was invited to give a lecture in his house after he was released. And I told him, wow, Baruch Hashem, you have a beautiful home. He said, it's not our house. You should have seen our real house that we lost. Oh, you lost? What happened? Then he told me the whole story. This one is rent. Give us a blessing that we can save enough money to buy another house. It was like 20 years ago. This lecture was there when I made it. But this is just to show you that whatever you have, you can have it from now until the next minute. You don't know what's next. You don't know what's next. How many Jewish people own buildings in Manhattan? A year and 2 months ago, each one of them was worth $300 million. On the paper, they own 20 buildings. In this building, they have 5 million, and this 15 million, and this 30 million, and this 50 million. They have equity. The rest is mortgage. They have rents coming in from thousands of tenants. They have big management company that runs their assets. They live like kings in the most expensive mansions here in New York, $20, $30 million homes. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in their luxurious lifestyle. All of a sudden, Corona came. All the tenants in one shot stopped to pay rent. 14 months. Try to imagine what just happened to these people. First of all their value fell down 40% right away because of the riots of Manhattan and the Corona and what happened in last year. So whatever equity they had was all erased on all buildings. They don't have a penny. But they have bills. Their bills is not your bill and my bill. They have $100,000 mandatory bills. They have to pay on this vacation home, and then another house, and a house in Israel, and 10 cars, and offices that they rent, and private chauffeur, and 5 cleaning ladies. This is mandatory expenses. And in one shot, nothing comes in, and tons of expenses continue as usual. From being a multi-millionaire or a billionaire, they became more poor than a Bachur Yeshiva. One of them, I know personally, that made fun at a Bachur Yeshiva. Now the Bachur Yeshiva that he made fun at him a few years ago is wealthier than him. With his Bentley. Drives a nice $350,000 Bentley. Soon it's going to be taken. With his Bentley and a $50,000 watch, the Bachur Yeshiva is wealthier than him. He has no debt. He's in zero balance. Zero balance. That's his balance, zero. This guy is in a negative 50 million. Where is he going to start? So you see that what you have in your hand could be an illusion. What's yours for eternity? What you give to others. Charity. Remember, every time you write a check, every time you go on Zelle Quick Pay or on Venmo or on cash and all these PayPal, whatever, or you write a check, or you wire, or whatever you do to a good cause, to Talmidim that sits and learn Torah, to do Issachar Zvulun with Bachur that sits and learn, to sponsor CDs, USBs, books, bringing people to lectures, or organizing seminars, whatever, things that Hashem likes. Whatever money you send will be yours for eternity. This money can never ever be used. It's yours for eternity. There is no way to lose it. The FBI cannot take it. The police cannot take it. The Satan cannot touch it. Your competitors cannot touch it. Nobody can eat it up. Everything else you have right now is in your hand. Tomorrow your child will eat it up.
If you get someone else to give, is that also?
I told you 500 times, yes. 500 times. Everyone who make other people give, it's count like they gave. You convince your friends to give. You convince your brother or sister or whatever the case is. Whatever they give, account in Shamayim you gave. Why? Hashem wanted to give the poor people an equal opportunity to buy mitzvot, not just the rich. For the rich, it's very easy. They write a lot of checks. Keep giving. I know one guy like this in Monsey. Him and his brother own buildings in London. Big ones. All their income goes to sponsor 10 big yeshivot in Israel. They pay all the 10 yeshivot to all the avrechim. 1,000 avrechim gets a salary from them. If you see how they live in Monsey, I should take you on a tour to look at their house. One of them lives in Monsey. I don't know where the other one lives. I will show you his house. A taxi driver here in Queens lives in a better house than him. He has buildings, big buildings in Europe. All the incomes go to sponsor 10 yeshivot. And he lives the most simple possible way. Very, very inexpensive car. Nothing luxury in his house. Unbelievable. Mamash unbelievable. And this is people that have tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. Property. Tons of money. But they don't use it. Nothing. They don't fly business class. They don't have expensive watches. They don't buy expensive cars. They don't buy vacation homes. I'll give you an example. One time, there was a husband and wife with a child that had cancer, lo alenu. They told them, you have to go to America. I think in Philadelphia there is a center for this kind of disease. So you have to be in America between 6 to 12 months. This is a poor couple, poor religious couple. They don't have a penny. To come to live in New York, you need to rent a house with your children, put them in yeshivot. You need minimum $100,000 to rent a place, to pay for yeshivot, to pay for food, for the airfare, all the rides back and forth every day. You need minimum $100,000. Who do you think paid it all? This man. He rent for them a nice house, few blocks away from him in Monsey. Pay the rent, pay the doctor fees, pay everything. He lives the most simple way. They actually lived in a rented house that is much nicer than his. He rent them a much nicer house than his own house. This is what Hashem meant when he spoke about a real Baal Chesed. That understand that this world is a blink of the eye. Before you realize it will be over, and the only thing you can take with you is what you give others. I'll give you a few examples of what I'm talking about. Chazal talking about, we spoke about it in Shavuot, but there was no camera, so maybe I'll repeat some of what I spoke about. Chazal spoke about Midrash Ruth, Midrash Rabbah, on Megillat Ruth, chapter 2, verse 14. The Gemara says, Megillah zo, this Megillah, Enva, there's not in it, what? No Tuma, velo Tahara, no purity laws, no impurity laws. Lo Isur velo Eter, nothing is forbidden, nothing is permitted. What we going to learn from this scroll, from this Megillat Ruth? What is the purpose of it? What was it written for? To tell us history? What was the purpose of writing Megillat Ruth? Megillat Esther is to publish the miracle of Hashem and Purim. All the other Megillot, Shir HaShirim, everything has a purpose. What's the purpose of this Megillat Ruth? The Gemara says, what was it written for? Ela lelamdecha, for one purpose, to teach you the huge reward of Gomlei Chasadim, of kind, generous people. To teach you their huge reward. Who can raise his hand and tell me where in a Megillah you learn the huge reward of someone who is Baal Chesed and kind and a giver? Where exactly in a Megillah you learn it? Let's save time. The first kind person in a Megillah is Ruth. That's why a lot of converts, their name is Ruth. Why? Because the Beit Din, the rabbis, suggest this name as a top priority. Why? The most impressive female convert in a history was Ruth. In the history of the world. So, what's the story? She married an important Jew, Machlon. Machlon and Kilion married Ruth and Orpah. And their father was Gdol Ador. Two sons of the highest authority of Torah ended up marrying non-Jewish women. How can it be? How can something like this be? The answer is, Rabotai, Elimelech. So business is bad in Israel. Business is bad. Starvation. He can't get normal food. He picked up all his wealth and moved to overseas. His sons, after years, they live in isolation, there's no Jewish community. They marry two goyot, Ruth and Orpah. What happened to them? All three of them died. This Elimelech died, Machlon and Kilion. Hashem took all three of them. Now Naomi and Ruth are widows from a Jew. You cannot be married to a Jew. If you're a non-Jewish woman, doesn't matter. You can marry as much as you want in a court here. In Shamayim, you're not considered married. So if he dies, you're not really a widow. Or if he divorced you in a court of Manhattan, you're not really a divorcee, because technically you've never been married. And he never been married. So for instance, if he left her and went and married a Jewish woman, it's count in Shamayim like he's married for the first time. And if she went and left him and married a goy, it's count in Shamayim that this goya is married for the first time. Because the marriage between a Jew and a non-Jew never stick. It's against the rules of Hashem, that's why it's not legal. So there is no marriage like this. You can live in illusion, but it won't help you. So what happened? After they died, they now single. So Ruth and Naomi decide to go to Eretz Israel. Naomi is the wife of Elimelech. She's the Rebbetzin. She was very wealthy woman. Her husband was the richest guy in Israel. Everybody around him was poor. He did not want to live among the poor people. He decided to move out. So after he died and his two sons died, now we have three women here. Naomi and her supposedly two sister-in-law, Ruth and Orpah. So Naomi decides to go to Israel, and Ruth come and say, I would like to join you on your journey. What? What for? Naomi is penniless. She lost all her wealth. Her husband died, everything is gone. Hashem took away everything. What incentive she has to go with a widow, with her mother-in-law, and she has nothing to give her? She can stay in her own country and married and start a new life. But obviously it's for the sake of heaven. She said to her, I would like to come with you. She can make money. Naomi is completely poor. She won't have any status. And at that time, she can't even convert. According to their understanding, she cannot convert. Why she cannot convert? Because it's written in the Torah, Lo yavo Amoni u'Moavi bikal Hashem. I don't want Goyim from these two nations, Ammon and Moab, to join my Jewish nation. Why? Because they are ungrateful people. I do not want ungrateful people to join my nation. They have a ban. They cannot convert. Later, we're going to find out, with the help of Chazal, that what the Torah meant, Lo yavo Amoni u'Moavi bikal Hashem, it's only for the male. It does not apply for females from that nation. Why? Because why Hashem was angry at the Goyim? When the Jews passed through their land, they should have run and given them some water and bread. Come, let us give you some food and water. Why? Because 10 generations ago, your grandfather Abraham saved our grandfather Lot, which was his nephew. And he saved him from the kings who captured him. Meaning, without your grandfather Abraham the Jew, we would not have life. So we are so grateful to you. The minimum we can do is offer you some bread and water. Since they did not run to do it, Hashem put an X on them for eternity. They can never convert to Judaism. Now one of them. So why it does not include the female? Because it's not modest for a woman to come out to the street with bread and drink and offer it to men that she doesn't know. Hey, excuse me, Itzik. I made you challah. What's your name? Christine. What's your name? Itzik. Where are you from? That's how it starts. You want some more water? Maybe you want to come inside? Maybe I'll make you something a little bit more delicious than this. I'm sorry, it's only bread. When a woman offers food for men, that's already a date. You know the joke in America. The way to a man's heart goes through his stomach. Meaning if you cook and you invest and you make a nice meal, something happened. By the way, it's not only between male and female. When they eat together, that it creates connection. Even in business, you want a good customer to buy a lot from you, take him to a good restaurant, stuff him with some good meat and good wine, let him be great feeling, and say, okay, Joe, let's talk business. What do you want? Sign here. What did I sign for? 1 million bags you're ordering. No problem, good luck. Take him to a bagel store, he will only order 50 bags. Don't take him to any store. I don't want to tell you what's going to happen. That's the way it is, Rabotai. So, obviously, because Hashem cannot be angry at the non-Jewish female for not coming and offering food to the men, because at that time the Goyot used to be very modest, not like today. Today the whole world is not modest. I put on my Facebook page 2 days ago a film that someone sent me. You sent it to me? You saw it, right? United States, I think it was Chicago. Well, France, I'm sorry. France, Paris. France. Not a Christian fanatic city. Paris. The heart of the lack of modesty of the world. That's where all the terrible things comes out to the world. Paris, 1895. Video in colors. Now they have a software. It restores film from the past in colors. Unbelievable. They have a video of the Chafetz Chaim, real Chafetz Chaim walking with his students. So, a video in Paris with the carriages, with the horses and few trains, and hundreds of people walking in the street of Paris 125 years ago, and of course, all the women with wedding gowns, wider than the Aron Kodesh behind me. She won't be able to walk in this door with her dress. That's how wide it is and modest. Covered from head to toe with hats. All the Goyot were covering their hair and their face with a net. An umbrella, in case somebody is looking. They did not think to buy a fancy wig. Rabbi, I made a neder. I would not wear my wig on Shabbos. After 20 years, she's Baalat Shuvah. Finally, she agreed to put a hat 1 day a week. And Christina and Sandra and whatever, all their names, they're in Paris. What happened with them? Complete modesty. This is what it used to be. Today, unfortunately, is a different world. But you see that a woman that dressed so nice and she's so conservative, she would not run to strangers to offer them food in the street, right? That's not class. That's why there is no demand from this Goyot. That's why Ruth can convert. She can convert to Judaism. Tov. But at that time, she doesn't know. The rule is, nobody convert Ammon and Moab. Male, female, don't talk to me about them. Hashem does not want these nations. We will not convert them. Tov. So why is she going to Israel? She's going to be the only Goya among million people there. She cannot marry anyone. She's going to stay with her for the rest of her life just to be with Naomi. Such a sacrifice. Why did she go? Chesed. Let me help you, you're an old woman. I'm not sending you alone. It is to be my mother-in-law, in her mind. I'm not leaving you alone. Orpah also say, okay, in that case I will also join you. She said to them, no, go back. Have your own life. What do you need with an old woman like me? Orpah went back, who came out of her? Goliath. Goliath, the Philistine, Goliath. And Ruth decided to stick to Naomi. So she comes with her to Israel. They arrive to which city? Which city? Bethlehem. Why the Arabs stole it from us? 3,000 years ago. We were already there. You occupying us, occupied land. Occupied from a nation that didn't exist until 50 years ago. Very interesting. A nation that lived in Israel 3,000 years ago occupied the land from a nation that was just invented 50 years ago. That has no history. No anthem, no flag, no museums, no history books. Nothing. Even their name is fake. It's named after Philistines. It's nothing to do with Arabs, this name. And they can't even say Palestinians. They can't say Palestine. Because an Arab cannot say P. So they say Palestine. So do you imagine that an Arab will call himself by a name he cannot ever pronounce because he doesn't have in his alphabet the letter P? Huh? It's like Americans call themselves Chacha. They can't say Cha. Right? They can't say Mizrachi. It's either Mizrahi or Mizrachi or Mizraki. There's a lot of different versions in America. But there is no, they can say Chabad, they say Habad. Habad. Right? So, since they cannot say Cha, imagine the American would want to change their name from Steve to Jorge. What's your name? It used to be Steve, but now it's Jorge. It will take him a year to say the name. It doesn't make sense that he'll choose such a name that doesn't have it in his alphabet, no? So you see, it's a scam. Do you think anyone in the world doesn't know it's a scam? They all know it. But they cooperate with that. You know why? Because it serves their purpose, to hurt the Jews. The world is divided to half and half. Half of the Goyim love and respect Jews and we wish them well, more or less. And half hates them, such hatred, that they will be very happy to see them all get destroyed. So that's why you hear, what's this guy, Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck speaks better than a rabbi, this guy. Christian guy, speaks. And then you see Geraldo Rivera, Imach Shimo v'zichro, Nazi, right? He's a Jew, by the way. Yeah. Can you believe it? This anti-Semite Nazi is a Jew. Geraldo Rivera. And Glenn Beck is a Goy. Donald Trump is a Goy. Bernie Sanders is a Jew. Olam Hafuch. The biggest enemies of Hashem and the Jewish people happen to be Jews, Erev Rav, like the Zohar say. Schumer. I can give you a list of 500 of them. Imach Shimam v'zichram. All of them. The biggest enemies of the world and of Hashem and of the Jewish people are these liberal lefties. And then you have all kinds of goyim who are a million times better than them. Who would you rather be the prime minister of Israel? Bibi or Donald Trump? If today there was an election and Trump decided to make aliyah, I would make 500 lectures to convince the whole Israel to vote for you. Or Rudy Giuliani or any one of these goyim. They're much better to Israel than anyone who sits there in the Knesset besides 2 or 3. There's 2 or 3 good ones in the Knesset, that's it, just about it. You can't find common sense anymore in the world. So, listen, this story ends beautiful. Have another 2 minutes patience. So she comes with her to Israel. No food, hunger. She needs to go and collect now some wheat in a field. Maybe they can make a little bread to eat. They don't expect sushi. And not spaghetti, and not pizza, and not falafel, not anything. Just maybe a little dough, that we can make bread not to die. To eat half a pita a day. That's it. Just to survive. So she go and collect wheat. Then you take them, you grind them, and you make bread. Boaz is the leader of Israel. He's a very old man, has 60 kids. 60 kids came out of him. And he's the head of the Sanhedrin, meaning the chief rabbi. His uncle, who was his uncle? Who was Boaz's uncle? Elimelech, the father of Machlon and Kilion, the husband of Naomi. Boaz had a huge embarrassment that his uncle took his wealth and fled Israel. Big embarrassment. Later, the news came that his two sons married non-Jewish women, which was the end of the world in those days. There was no 70% intermarriage rate. So if someone will marry a non-Jew in those days, that had to be a massive tragedy. Like, everyone would be extremely shocked. Especially two sons of a rabbi. Even today it's a big shock. So his uncle was Elimelech, who abandoned Israel in a time of trouble, and instead of feeding the poor in Bethlehem, the poor people of Bethlehem, he was worried about his money. And he said, if I will stay here, a lot of poor people will knock on my door and I'm going to be forced to give them money. They're starved, they're dying. Let me run away from here that I should not see the hungry people. Why should I live in such a poverty place? Let me move to Beverly Hills. I can afford it. So he went out. Not only that, he went to where? Where did he go? To Moab. To Moab. It's just like Israeli moved to Germany. There's thousands of them after the Holocaust. The Germans killed their grandparents, and some of these Ashkenazi Israelis, while the blood of their grandparents is still bubbling on the ground, moved to live in Berlin. No other place, Berlin, where they burned their own grandparents and uncles and all of them. So that's where they go, to Moab, place that Hashem said, I don't want to hear about this goyim. Don't want them to convert. To there he moved. Not only that, Boaz is now alone. His uncle could have helped him a lot. He's the chief rabbi. He could have used a good sponsor. If you have someone wealthy behind you, you can do a lot of good things. So he's alone now. So what does he do? All they cry to Hashem that will give him enough to feed all these poor people. And he has a field with wheat, and they come and he gives them some wheat to each one of them, few of them, that they should survive another day. And all of a sudden, Boaz comes to the field, and what does he see? This Goya. He never saw her before. But he sees that she has class. She's very modest. When she bend down, she do not bend down in a not modest way. She bend down only with her legs. So her whole dress cover her completely. Not like this. She just fold her legs, not her back. And she collect from the side like this. Why? She doesn't want men behind to look at her. That's a class of a modest woman. But, modest or not, how do you dare to collect wheat in my field when I'm collecting them one by one to give it to my own people? Meaning, what are you doing here? Right? Somebody else will get very angry. Excuse me, who are you? I'm sorry, my name is Ruth. Where are you from? I came from Berlin. What? What are you doing here? I'm hungry, so I'm collecting some wheat. Don't you think you have chutzpah here? It's my field over here, you're collecting? Who told you to come here? Go back to your country, they're rich over there. Not only did not do that, he was extremely nice to her. He comes and he say to her, הלא שמעת ביתי, אל תלכי ללקוט בשדה אחר. Don't go to another field. You can take from here. Stick to my own girls over here. Right? When they cut, follow them. I also told the boys not to bother you. That whatever you need, they should give to you, and they also will get some water from the wells and give you something to drink. Very nice. Not only that, he said to her, please come over. And he said to her, since you arrived here, I would like to tell you one halakha. Although people from your nation are not allowed to convert to Judaism, but it's only the men. Women are allowed. And he explained to her what I just told you a minute ago. Why women are allowed. So if you would like to convert, you can start learning, and we will help you to convert and join our nation. What a nice hospitality. No? Baruch Hashem. So, after that, he gave her some wheat, and she was full, and she had extra, and she went and gave to Naomi. And what did he give her? It's very interesting. 2 branches of wheat inside vinegar. I guess they used to have something supposedly delicious, putting the wheat in vinegar. Top. And he's very nice with her. The Midrash says, listen now carefully. If Reuven would know